This is a Kitzur Yomi as we continue Hilchos Tzitzis. We are in the ninth perek, Sif Tes. Today we're going to discuss the famous Shaila with Tzitzis at night, as this beautiful Akdama article Tes says over here, shows us that there's a machlekes, a Rambam and Rosh, whether there's the Chiyuv of Tzitzis or night, or is it just that a garment worn at night, one that does not have to wear Tzitzis on. The Rosh says the garment you don't have to wear tzitzis on, but at night one does have a chiyuv, and the Rambam says the opposite. Based on that, says the Gemara, says the Kitzur, that when one would be putting tzitzis on at night, we would be posed with a suffix, and therefore ein mevarchen ala tzitzis ela bayoim. You can never make a bracha on tzitzis only by day v'loy b'layla, not at night. Ulachatchila. Should be careful not to make a bracha in your tzitzis till it is so much day. Sheyakir bin tchilas l'lavan, which of course is where the zman of Misha Yakir comes from. It was just very relevant before we switched the clocks. It was very late. Anyone davening at certain hours could potentially run into an issue that what do they do because they can't make a bracha yet on tzitzis. And the reason is, we're learning right now that you can't make a bracha at night, and therefore you have to wait for the Siman of Misha Yakir in order to be able to make that bracha. Continues the Kitzur, Lavash the Tallis Katan. If someone wears a Tallis Katan by Laila, which again, by Laila, we're now understanding could mean just early in the morning, or it means he wore them all night, he sleeps in his tzitzis. And therefore he didn't make a bracha on it. As we spoke about, that there's two times to put on your tzitzis. Either it's the first moment of the morning, which then your hands would not be clean, or it's after you wash your hands. So let's say you put on your hands, you're not clean, therefore you cannot make a bracha. Azai then kishumavarich al talis gadol yechavin bebracha zu gam as a talis katan. Then when you're making the bracha on the talis gadol, you have in mind for the talis katan. But let's say one is not married and he's not wearing a talis gadol. Mishein lo talis gadol. Says the Kitzur, if you don't have a talis gadol, or the note points out you're not married, im lavish the talis katan bayoim the other nikiyos. Then yivarech alav al mitzvahs tzitzis. Havav bepatach al mitzvahs tzitzis. V'im lav shoy kisheinu yachal levarech alav. And if you put on when you're not able to make a bracha, like we just said, either at night or your hands are not clean, as I then, what do you do? You take just the strings and make the bracha. So let's just speak out what just happened. That really, when should you make the bracha? As we spoke about over last siyas. You hold your tzitzis and you make a bracha. But if you put them on your hands were not clean and you put them on at night, you cannot do that. Then you hold the strings and you make the bracha only afterwards. Let's say you slept in your talis katan. Cannot make a bracha on that talis katan. And the reason is, as we explain in note 65, because then maybe it gets the din of a nighttime garment, which, as we spoke about in the Akdama, the machlekes Rambam Rosh, therefore might be potter from tzitzis, therefore you will not make a bracha on that garment. However, if someone sleeps in tzitzis, then later he puts on a talis katan, of course you have a mind to potter up his talis katan. Another eitzah would be if someone were to have two talis katans. He would sleep in one, get up in the morning, take off that garment, put on a different talis katan. Then he would, of course, yes, be able to make a bracha on it. We continue with Sif Yod. Says the Kitzur, Tallis, so one who takes off his talis miyad, right away. I feel like he say, even if he has gone to the bathing, you don't make a bracha on it. Why? Because be'etzem, and this is something we should just think about for a moment, just like we wear our talis katan into the bathroom, why can't I wear my talis gadol? And the answer is, you could. We just do not do it because the talis gadol we've taken on as a din of a beged that is a miyuchad l'tefillah. And therefore, says Mishmur, you don't wear it into the bathroom. But theoretically, you could. L'chein lo avi hefsek is not called a hefsek. Aval, however, it might say that if you take it off, you didn't have in mind to put it right back on. You took off your talis and you thought you're going home. And then you're like, oh, you know what? I'll stay in shul and learn a little bit. Let me put back my talis. You change your name then because that's called a hesach hadas. Therefore, you have to make a new bracha on it. Now, the one thing that we did not really quantify properly is the Kitzur did not give us a time, which how long is called miyad, which we'll get to at the end. Let's say one's tallis falls off inadvertently. And let's be careful, he said al gufay, part of the tallis is on your body. Not that you caught it before it falls in your hand, but rather it's still on your body. Then the majority of it fell. Then you have to make a new bracha when you straighten it upon yourself. There's nothing left in your body. It's even though you grabbed it, you hold it in your hand. That's not enough. Or it's left on your body itself. There's no mitzvah to hold tallis in your hands. It's mitzvah to wear the tallis. To wrap your body in it. Therefore, when you put it back on, you're going to have to make a new bracha. And if this happened while you are davening, and we'll just point out that note 68 says there are those opinions who disagree. It says as long as you're wearing your talis katan, you would not have to make a new bracha. L'maisa or some Zalman Paskins that way. Mishnah Berurah sounds maybe not that way. It would seem that the minhag is to make a new bracha if the tallis falls off entirely. The mir loy came betfilasai. If it happened while one is davening shein rashi lahavsik, let's say middle of shon asir, loyvarich don't make a bracha. Then eliyamtin ajuk levarich. Wait until you're able to make a bracha, and then va'oichas the tzitzis biyada, you hold the tzitzis in your hands, umevarich, and make a bracha. Now, just because the Kitzur didn't really give us the gather of miyad, we will just point out the words of the Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Balatanya, the Gras. He says Bezer Gimel Sha'is, and that's l'chayra the proper one could use. Of course, if you just take it off and you're putting it right back on, that's easy. But let's say you take it off and you're not putting it on for another hour and a half. One is taking a nap. Okay, he should nap in his tzitzis. But let's say he's not. One's going swimming. One is, So those scenarios, the answer is 2 or 3 hours. We say usually have the 3 hour mark is when you would make a new bracha. Says the Kitzur, Mutter lital talis shel chavera. You come to shul, you need a talis. You're allowed to take your friend's talis. Ba'krei ba'alma on occasion. Gam shel midayti if you didn't ask him. L'spal albai ulevarich alav. Why? The famous klal mishum de mistam anichle leinish lamed mitzvah mimayna. People like other people to utilize their items to do mitzvahs with it, and therefore you can use his talis even without asking. Makom shein chasarin kiss, as long as there is no loss. We will mention, it says as long as it is no loss. Now, if one is going to get it dirty, smelly, or I don't know what he could do with it, then that would be called ruining the item. Therefore, it would not be simple just to take his talis. However, you can't take it out of the house that it's in. Maybe he's makbid to have it in that area. And similarly, you have to fold it back the way that it was. You can't fold the talis, which of course we know is a loaded discussion. There are those who say, yeah, we'll get to there eventually. Do not fold it. The Kivan Shin Mekabla Mishum Isser Shabbos. Since you're not doing it because of Isser Shabbos, Chaver Meichel, your friend will be Meichel, because he knows he didn't just not fold it. You didn't do it because of halacha. Hashel Chaver Talis, when who borrows the talis, Rak Lalis by La Torah. So he just said that you could use your friend's talis, and you'd even make a brach on it. But says the Kitzur, let's say you just take someone else's talis for a mitzvah to get an aliyah. Yisavik and Varach love it to Savik. Okay, therefore, Yiskavin, you should have in mind when you take that talis, She'ena Ratz, like nice, you don't want to be acquiring it. Va'az, Lukuli Alma, and it's Levarach, then according to everyone, you would not have to make the bracha. Avalim talis hakahal. If it's a talis of the shul, if you don't even know Rak Lalos Batayra, Sarech Levarich Alav, Dahave Kish Eloi, because is considered like your own. If anyone is wondering what, I never did that. I've taken the shul's talis and didn't make a bracha on it. So don't be nervous as you look at note 76. The Bir Halacha says that many of the minhag not to make a bracha on the shul's talis even when one is taking it for an aliyah. Continues the Kitzur Stam Semer Amar Batayu Babaiskim wool is Utsemer Rechilim Ve'elim, the wool of sheep, ewes, and rams. Tallis Ashesi, you shall semer. If you have a tallis that one way it's made out of wool, va'erev you shall semer gefen oy meshi chadayma, and the other threads are made of cotton, silk, or the like, or the hepech. She'erev you shall semer v'ashesi u'mimin acher yari shamayim lo yivarech al tallis zeh mishum wide yishayim. There's some that say the gam tzitzis shall semer ina poitin rak beged she'umamina. Some say that this would not work. To find such a tallis nowadays is probably impossible. V'chein tallis shall meshi, a silk tallis, so tzitzis shall hin shall tzemer, and the strings are wool. Yivarech alav ella v'artila tallis shall tzemer. Make a bracha on a different tallis. Visate by v'achar yisir, take it off. Visate v'zeh, and then wear that other tallis. However, gam im gam atzitzis shall meshi. Let's say you have a tallis of silk and the strings of silk, which again I don't know if these things exist. Yachol avarich. Allah v'loish chiche b'mdina zayin tzitzis shal meshi. He says the Kitzur already, the Zana Kitzur wasn't common to have such tzitzis. David tzitzis being a tvi lishma, you need to spin them lishma, and silk is not so common. V'im, and if it makes that tzitzis shal meshi, makes that shal semer, garetz v'etzim worse. V'ein lasois kain. One the last halacha sif yud gimel. Says the Kitzur tzitza, the tzitzis themselves, and this goes back to what we spoke about. And we reminded ourselves that even though when we look at our tzitzis, we see 8 strings floating down, it's 4 that's doubled over. So says the Kitzur, if you have one string, and if one string is ripped, which of course equal 8, and there's enough of it to make a bow with that string. That's the minimal length. We're talking about the hanging part on the bottom. Then the hainu, which is arba gedulin, 4 thumb widths, which is a few inches. Ein chayadam, or in nifsku shnayim, let's say 2 of them. Revenishtam mikol echad arba gedulin, shtei chutanein shleimos kashir, and 2 are fully full kashir, then it's kosher. But again, let's be careful. He's talking about that the entire string ripped. But if it's only one half, it would be a different story. However, in this like shloisha chutin, if 3 strings were ripped, even if it has this 4 gedolim v'achot araviu shalem, oy shenizik avilu rachot echad v'loy nisham menu arba gedolin v'ishe shloisha chutin in shleimos mikol makom psula imloy b'shasat chak, unless it is b'shasat chak. And the bottom here they say this is not a simple halacha. Ayin mishtabura b'halacha etc. And therefore, in this achot echam and ashman achut not tuluyin. Afilu nesli gamri al chuliyas is what we just spoke about. If it's 1 out of 8, not 1 out of 4, meaning if it's one side that's ripped and it can be all the way al chuliyas, all the way until the knots. Pshita dikishaka sheira, says the Kitzur. Why? Because kivan the chut zayni rak chatzi chut. It's only half. The second half is kedei aniva. The yoiser has a lot left. Therefore, it's not a problem. And let's say 2 of 8 were ripped. So maybe these are 2 strings. Maybe they're really 1. However, what do we speak about? Remember, we spoke that when you make your tzitzis, you do 4 and 4, and you should keep them together. Therefore, and that's obviously when, if you buy tzitzis, that's how they make it. So if you're sure, the 2 different strings, and how would you be sure? If you're taking down 4 and 4 and 2 are ripped, so they're clearly 2 different strings. And as we just spoke about, and when you tie the tzitzis, thinking you were careful. Likshar Tamid, Arba Roshim Sribsazem, Arba Roshim Sazem, to keep the 4 and 4. Sabbath, Hey. And Vata now Nifsaku Shnei Roshim inside Echo Shalakesher, 2 on one side are ripped in Cain. Harain Bivadai Mishnei Chuti, no for sure 2 different strings. Kimajish Kol Echad Chut Adayin, Shir Arba Gedulim V'Yosef Sadashini Shalakesher, Vashini Chutin Shleimois, Harei Atzizik Sheira. Very important halacha. Mamish this Shabbos, someone asked this to me. If you have 4 and 4, 1, 2 could be ripped all the way to the knots, and it's not a problem because that's only half of the tzitzis. But if it's ripped all the way on the top by the hole where it's hanging into your tzitzis, then psula, then it is possible. And we conclude. This that we said, that if 1 string was ripped, and it's enough to make a bow. This is particularly in Bishas Asiyah, as we just spoke about. Harikula, Chut, and Aruch, Kashir, everything was the requisite shear, 12 thumb lengths when you make your tzitzis. So now it rips. However, Bishas Asiyah also, while you're making the tzitzis, Katzar, rak, mashum, and ashir, if it's small, and ashir, psul, and it's possible. And of course, this for us won't be relevant because when we're making tzitzis, we're going to be buying the strings. The strings, of course, are long enough. And therefore, very important halacha we're ending with. If your tzitzis are ripped, but it's only half of the 1 or 2 tzitzis, then it is not a problem because it's really, again, only half. The other half is much more than the shear. We'll pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmaya.